Yes.
So
or mod proxy.
Just the heavy lifter does the proxying for it.
Right, and actually the HTTP server that's built in will even serve static files if you wanted to, but it's totally up to you. If you want to have Apache do that, you can have Apache do that too. But all the dynamic content obviously would have to come from this, because that's your interface to the
right.
system. Does that explain? Does that answer your question? Okay. Okay, so again, we're not forcing you to use this particular type of templating thing, but we're going to try to make that a lot easier in the next release of Happstack. Right, the state system. So this is probably the biggest, most controversial thing that Happstack has. It's not in a database. It's not an SQL database. It has its own data store, which actually has the same properties of MySQL, like it's durable. Well, ACID. Are you guys familiar with the ACID acronym? It means atomic, concurrent,
yeah,
consistent, yeah. Atomic, consistent, isolated, durable. So it has all the same properties that a MySQL database has. Obviously, it hasn't been battle tested, so there might be some weird bugs out there, but we're trying to crush all those. Now, what happens is that the entire state is kept in RAM. This gives you some nice performance issues. I don't know how much you guys have read or researched into the whole topic of scalability with OAuth, but what happens is that when your site starts getting, I think someone said, what was it, the Reddit or Dig effect or something? When your site's getting slammed, if you're storing static files, you're totally fine because Apache can churn those out real fast. But if you're running lots of database queries, let's say that you load up one page and you're using something like Rails and it does like 100 queries just to load up this whole page. Well, that's where your scalability problem's going to be. Your bottleneck's going to be right there.
Disk I/O, right?
What's that?
It's disk I/O. It's like reading the hard disk.
Well, no, actually it's just the database performance itself.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, disk does come into it too, but it's not that fast when it comes down to sheer, just totally molesting it. So the way people work around this usually is with something called memcached or something like it. And what that is, memcached is basically like a giant in-memory key value store. And it's super duper snappy because it's all in memory. And so it's like you end up doing all these little confusing things to make your web app scale. Like you got your database, and you gotta convert types in between your database and back. And then, okay, well now we're getting scalability problems. So now we have to have memcached sitting in between, which is now caching values in your key data store memcached. And then your web server takes from memcached and does this and blah, 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 blah. So we're like, why don't we just cut out the middleman and all that crap and just store everything in memory from the get-go? And that is the idea behind that state system, and also why it is so controversial. So,
have you actually tried completely raping it and
completely raping it? Well,
stress tests?
The short answer is no, but that is something that I definitely want to do. I want to do some stress tests on it. And there's a guy on the mailing list. I don't know if you guys have been following it, but
Thomas? I think Thomas.
You know what I'm talking about.
Stress tests.
Yeah, there's some guy who wants to do some instrumentation type tests, like work on the massively scalable types of issues with this.
You're not. Is this not me?
This is not you. This is some other guy on the mailing list that said that he wants to do this, but he needs to find somewhere where he can find lots of computing power.
Oh, okay.
I could potentially land a machine.
The guy kind of sounds like a mad scientist, but what?
I've got an 8-core machine that's got 8 gigs of RAM and running Linux. Potentially,
yeah, we should hook you up. Awesome. Okay, we should talk afterwards.
Okay.
So, and I had, as part of HAppS tutorial, I tried to kind of crush it and do confusing things to it. Probably not I don't know, there's probably more crushing things that I could have done. But I began on this process, and before that there were no stress tests at all. So actually part of HAppS tutorial is there's a few chapters of my attempts to crash the MASID system. And I didn't ever completely crash it, but I kind of got to get a little bit slow doing certain things. But it turned out you could use a better data type, and then things got better, and I just got tired of doing it quick. But there's I began to do something in that direction.
So yeah, I mean, obviously he's done some stress testing. We haven't done it on the massively huge scale that you might be thinking, but we hope that we can in the future, because that's kind of the point of the system in the first place, is to solve these massively scalable problems. So, next slide.